Dolphins fans, I want you to go ahead and hit that big red button underneath this video that says subscribe. That way, you never miss anything going on with your favorite team. I don't know about y'all, but when I go out and hang out with some of my buddies, we talk about sports a lot. You ever have that one friend you're like, man, this guy's got no idea what he's talking about? Don't be that dude. Stay up to date on your team. Hit the big red button that says sub, and if any breaking news happens, we're going to keep you guys up to date. So you see that bell underneath? Click that, click all. That way you'll never miss a thing. All right, y'all, let's get into today's show. Mitchell Renz from Chat Sports, and coming up here on today's show, we're going to get into a Miami Dolphins preview up against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to give you a preview from the offensive side of the football, the defensive side of the football, and then I'm going to give you my overall score prediction in this one. Now, for the Dolphins, they are coming off a win, which is definitely going to get people pretty excited. The bad news, well, now you're going to be going up against the Baltimore Ravens, who are 6-2 and 7.5-point favorites on the road. The over-under in this game is set at 46.5 points. And when I look at both of these teams, you look at Lamar Jackson on the offensive side of the football, and a team that's 6-2, first place in their division, and probably one of the better teams in the league. And then you look over the Dolphins side, who are 2-7. Sure, they're coming off a win, but the Dolphins are going to need a lot of things going the right direction for them to come away with a victory in this one. So what I want you guys to do is go ahead and predict the score. Dolphins up against the Ravens. Remember, the Baltimore Ravens are a 7.5-point favorite. The over-under in this one is set at 46.5. And before I give you my score, which is going to be at the very end of today's video, we're going to be breaking down also some keys to victory. So I want you to go ahead and let me know the score prediction. All right, y'all, we're going to first look at the offensive side of the football. Total yards per game, very lopsided. Baltimore second best in the league. Miami 30th best in the league. Passing yards per game. I know we always talk about the Ravens being able to run the ball. They've actually been able to throw it as well, but they also are number one in the league in terms of rushing yards per game, where Miami is ranked dead last. Points per game, advantage Baltimore. As you guys can tell, this is going to be a very lopsided offensive game. Now, the main storyline to look at here for the Dolphins is what's going to happen with Tua Tagovailoa, and is he going to be able to play? Now, at the time that I am recording this video, the latest news that I personally have is he missed week 9 with that middle finger injury, and, F me, right? But it is fractured. Brian Flores considers him day-to-day, and they are uncertain whether or not he's going to be able to go against Baltimore. The good news is you can say what you want about Jacoby Brissett, but I do think he's actually one of the more competent backups in the NFL, coming off a game where he had a touchdown, 2 interceptions. So if Tua's unable to go, it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. Another injury to be able to keep you guys up to date with, Will Fuller, not going to be playing. And this was one of those moves where when Miami signed Fuller to that 1-year, $10 million deal in the offseason, I know a lot of people, me included, were excited. I was like, man, this is going to be a good fit. He's going to be a field stretcher next to Jaylen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker, all these weapons. Dude's had 4 catches for 26 yards, and he had 3 catches week 1 of Monday Night Football against the Raiders. So, he's had 1 catch since week 1. This has been an absolute disaster of a signing, and he's not going to be playing again this week. Now, let's look at the defensive side of the football, because if Miami wants to win this game, it's going to have to happen with the defense. Total yards per game, both teams rank in the bottom 20. Passing yards per game, Baltimore's ranked 31st, Miami's ranked 30th. Rushing yards per game against, points per game against, takeaways. Now, takeaways is definitely key because the Ravens, they've struggled this year taking the ball away from their opponents. Only 7, that's tied for 28th worst. Or Miami, well, they got 13, tied for 11th best. Now, if you want to stop the Ravens, you got to stop this guy. His name's Lamar Jackson. He's got a 65% completion percentage, 2,209 passing yards, 13 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But even though he's been, I actually think, better with his arm despite having some of the injuries that Baltimore's had to the wide receiver core, you also got to give a shout-out to his rushing ability because he is the greatest rushing quarterback of all time. And I love Michael Vick. I also love what Cam Newton was able to bring to the table. Lamar Jackson is the greatest rushing quarterback of all time. 97 carries this year, 600 yards. He's averaging 6.1 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. Now, if you guys want to go ahead and put some money down on the Dolphins winning this game, you can go ahead and do so. If you want to have the Dolphins covering the spread at plus 7.5, you can do that. If you want to bet on the Ravens, hey, I'm not really going to judge at the end of the day. I just want you guys to make some money. Now, to take advantage of this deal we got going on, it's chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code Dolphins125. Well, if you put down $100, you get $125 for free. You can actually put down up to $500 and get $625 for free. I tell people all the time it's the best deal on the internet. Now, in terms of the odds, right? The Ravens, minus 7.5. The total over-under in this one is set at 46.5. So for some of you who are like, well, what should I bet on? So far this year, Baltimore 6-2 in terms of money lines. Miami 2-7 against money lines, right? So literally the records. Against the spread, Baltimore 3-5 against the spread. Miami 3-5-1 against the spread. All right. So the over/under: Baltimore 5-3, Miami 4-5. The bets that I'm going to be making, well, actually, I'm going to tell you at the very end of today's show. But seriously, chatsports.com/bet, promo code Dolphins125. Throw some money down, have a little bit of fun. All right, guys, so what's going to be happening now is we're going to get into Dolphins keys to victory. So what I essentially have for y'all is 4 keys. And if Dolphins want to be able to upset the Ravens, or if you just have the plus 7.5, this is what's going to have to happen in order for them to try to manage that. No turnovers. Like, you can't turn the ball over at all, because if you give Lamar, you give that offense a short field, it's going to be a long day. On top of that, I don't really need to sit here and tell you that the Ravens have a better team from top to bottom. And usually, teams, when they upset somebody, it's due to turnovers. And everyone out there saying, oh, the Dolphins don't have a chance. Look at last week. Last week was the perfect example of a team where if you show up and you play your heart out and the other team doesn't show up, you can win. How many people thought that the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to beat the Buffalo Bills? I don't think really anybody. What about 2 weeks ago when the Cincinnati Bengals lost to the New York Jets? I don't know about y'all. What about even, again, another game? The New York Giants. They took care of business up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Underdogs win all the time in the NFL, and it can happen in this game as well. The next key, the offense needs to run through 2 guys, Mike Gesicki and Jaylen Waddle. Those are your 2 best players, and I don't even know if it's really all that close. I get that, Gaskin had 20 carries this past game. That was against the Houston Texans. You want to beat Baltimore? Throw the ball. That's how you take advantage of them, because ever since they lost their second cornerback, Marcus Peters, the defense just hasn't been there. And I believe they lost another safety this past week to a season-ending injury as well. For Gesicki, he's got 44 grabs, leads the team with 529 yards. He's averaging 12 yards per catch, and he's got 2 touchdowns. Jaylen Waddle, he leads the team in receptions, targets. Now, would I like to see the ball get thrown a little bit further downfield? Sure. That also means the offensive line has to actually block some people, because the offensive line right now is an absolute joke. But if you want to be able to move the football, I don't care if both of these guys get 15 targets. It needs to go through them. So what about this, though? I'm genuinely curious who do you guys think is the better player on offense right now for the Dolphins? I want you to type MG for Mike Gesicki, or I want you to go ahead and type JW for Jaylen Waddle. And some people are like, man, why do you got to put them up against each other? That's my job, because I like talking about football. And I want you guys to think about it as well. So MG for Mike Gesicki, JW for Jaylen Waddle. The next thing we're going to get into, my keys to victory for the Dolphins, is you got to get the tight ends involved. And wait, you got to get Gesicki, Waddle, and now the tight ends? Yes. The biggest area that the Baltimore Ravens struggle against is stopping tight ends. So in terms of some of these Dolphins numbers, here's every single stat that a Dolphins tight end has got this year. Gesicki, 44, 529, 2 tutties. Durham Smythe, 15 catches, 161 yards. Adam Shaheen, 8 catches, 57 yards. Carter, 2 catches, 16 yards. Now, the number that I'm going to show you is fantasy points. So if anybody out there likes fantasy football, if anybody wants a sleeper pick for whatever you're doing in your fantasy leagues, the Baltimore Ravens right now are ranked the second worst team and giving up points to the tight end position. So the numbers that you guys see over here are the average points per game that Baltimore has given up to the tight end position. So 18.44. So it might not just be Mike Gesicki, because Baltimore has gotten beat against the second string tight end as well. All I'm saying is this: get your tight ends involved. So what about this? I talked about getting Gesicki involved. I talked about getting the tight ends involved. I want you guys to go down to the comment section right now, look into that crystal ball, and predict how many receiving yards for Mike Gesicki this week. I'm going to set the over-under at about 69. My last thing going up here is going to be quarterback spy on Lamar Jackson, because If you let Lamar run wild, if you don't try to get after him a little bit, you're going to lose the game. And if you can just manage Lamar just a little bit, like where he just has a decent game, because if he has one of those where he's throwing for over 300 yards and he rushes for almost 100, sorry, it's going to be a long day at the office. But if you can force a few turnovers, don't let him have that big run that he usually gets every single game, that's your best chance of winning. So do a QB spy on him, even maybe if you got 2 people spying on him. So go ahead and predict the score. The Miami Dolphins, the Baltimore Ravens, the over-under this game, 46.5. The Dolphins are 7.5-point underdogs. My score prediction for this one, I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens 34 over the Dolphins 20. So I'm betting the over. I'm betting the Ravens. I know that might kill some people's spirits, but at the end of the day, I got to give you my honest opinion. If I'm wrong, dude, send me hate mail on Instagram, on Twitter, at MitchellRens365.